Hi, lovelies. Welcome back to Around the Kitchen Table, the podcast where we gather as women once did, in circle, in story, and in truth. I'm Nora Ireland, founder of Sacred Sister, and today I want to talk about something that so many of us carry quietly, the sister wound. That ache that rises when something's been said or not said, when a message lands wrong, when silence feels louder than words, and when we feel misunderstood, dismissed, or deeply hurt, often by another woman that we perhaps trusted. And also when we're the one who caused hurt, when we spoke too quickly or disappeared when we were needed, or reacted from a place of pain rather than love. So welcome. This has really been living in me this week, not just as an idea, but kind of as a lived experience. Last week I shared with you about kind of a situation that had arisen where, things that we had maybe said had a different expectation of or a different meaning. And out of that kind of experience came this feeling of kind of need for reconciliation. Not because there perhaps has to be an ongoing relationship, not perhaps because, this particular sister and I are going to work together again or have a great relationship. But because actually the space in the gap is where we can create so much pain. So I wanted to bring that to you today. And I realized that we're touching some quite heavy topics in the first instance of our podcast. But actually, all of these things bring us back to our sacred agreement. What is it to have, a real honest conversation with each other as women? So, I wanted to kind of give you a moment just to kind of take a breath perhaps and let that settle, let that be alive in you. Can you bring to mind a moment where perhaps there was a bit of a sting of perhaps something really small but real and significant? Moments where you've had to take a deep breath and kind of ask yourself, did I really show up the way I meant to? Did I speak from my truth or from a wound? And do I owe a repair somewhere? We can all think about those moments. Maybe they are in family relationships, even with our own kids, times where I've been, triggered by something with my kids. And I'm like, I fired off a comment and I haven't meant to fire off that comment. But in that moment, it was like, whew, that expression. And so I'm not too big in my grown-up shoes to apologize to my kids when I've said something that I feel has hurt them. But this is a word that keeps circling in my heart. Sorry. Sorry. Such a small word and often really misused. We say it really quickly. I'm sorry, okay? If you've got kids, you'll know that one. We say it when we haven't really stopped to feel what we're apologizing for. That's one of the biggies in our house. Even when my husband, God love him, says I'm sorry for something, I'm like, what for? Like, I hate it. I hate the throwaway comment of I'm sorry. Like, it makes everything okay. We can pick up the proverbial carpet, sweep everything else underneath it because I've said I'm sorry. Sometimes that's not enough, especially if your words are a kind of throwaway comment in the hope that it will just go away. I'm sorry can often be an escape, or it can also be a sacred invitation, an invitation to stay in connection. When I've had moments in my life where I know I need, like something's wobbling me Like most of us, especially us kind of ladies of the world, we have this kind of, abandonment wound. Mine came from my dad. God bless him. He didn't ever leave. Him and my mum are still together, but he came and went every week because he was a truck driver. So one minute he was there and the next minute he was gone. And that was our life. So I have that wound that runs within me. And sometimes when things kind of are not great, we all have relationships, we all have ups and downs, things kind of happen and they kind of, they can get out of hand, right? Somebody can go, oh, I'm done, I'm out of here, I'm leaving. Sorry for me is often that invitation to stay in connection. It's like, actually, I'm saying sorry because I need you to know that I'm still here and I still want this connection. So the sacred invitation can often be that. It can often be a staying, to not run from the discomfort and to really see the impact that we've had and to hold space for someone else's pain without making it about us. That's what restoration looks like. And it's not easy. It's not easy because shame can rise, guilt can kind of whisper in our ear, blame can sneak in. And those are hard feelings to sit with because, joy, love, kind of happiness, you can feel it. It's tangible. Shame is a bit of a different one. It doesn't have that same kind of like tangible feeling. We can feel sadness, we can feel grief, we can feel those things move through our body. Shame rises in a different way. And it often rises from a really low place, a real little part of you that feels that shame. Guilt is a great one. It can really whispers in the ear, right? And blame, well, blame is just not okay. A wise old soul, not that old actually, a wise soul, reminded me not so long ago that when you do this, when you point this finger, like I'm pointing my index finger right now, if you point your index finger, your other three fingers point back at you, right? So if you're pointing the finger of blame, actually, you're really, really kind of bringing that blame back to yourself. That's where you need to look at where are the triggers. So we can also spiral into really old stories about not being good enough, being too much, being the one who always messes things up. But this is where our sacred code for Sacred Sister comes in. This is why I kind of sat with this and really created this code, because there were times, for 5 years now, we've been meeting as women in fields and online as well. And, for me, making sure that I could create the safest possible space for every woman that's coming to our spaces means that actually the sacred code, this agreement that we have with each other says, okay, this is the groundwork that we're doing. This is the foundation. These are the roots that we're putting down to offer support to each other in every moment, including when it gets a bit icky. So it's the agreement that we make, not just with each other, but with ourselves, to stay soft, to take responsibility, to repair with love, not from fear, to show up in relationship, not perfectly, but consciously. And when two women can do that together, that's healing, not just for them, but for the whole lineage. When we heal as women, we don't just do this work for ourselves. We do this for all that came before and all that will come afterwards. Consider the other relationships you have in your lives and how different they might be if you were to find a way to have reconciliation. If you were to be able to take full radical responsibility and ownership for what is moving through you. If you were able to say to that person, to that partner, to your child, hey, you know what? Something's going on for me right now. And actually, I'd love to sit with you and be heard, if that's okay. And there's no blame, there's no finger pointing, there's just the opportunity to really listen. There's so much power in that place. And we've lost it. We've lost it. We don't do that anymore. We don't have trust. We live in square boxes next door to square boxes. We call them home and we're taught not to talk to strangers. So we don't speak to each other. And we spend our lives in smaller boxes in our offices. I'm the world's greatest one for having done that since lockdown. I'd spent my whole life, 30 years of my career in therapy, working alongside women, kind of treating hundreds of thousands of women. I worked out the other week when I was like, what qualifies me to sit in this place? What qualifies me to kind of, teach other women to create circle and safer spaces in their communities? And I was like, I worked an average of like, if I had worked 8 hours a day, which I never did, it was always more like 10, 12, 14. And I did an average a client in every 2 hours. I'd have seen 44,000 clients over the period of my career. It will be more than that because that's a very kind of lenient estimate of my time. So, what I've known and what I do know is that no woman ever comes in for a leg wax and doesn't tell you their whole life story, right? So I've listened and I've learned to listen and I've learned to, really hone those skills without wanting to fix, without wanting to repair, without wanting to rescue, without wanting to advise. Of course, all of those things slip back in because that's human nature. But to catch myself in everyday life, not just in circle, not just when I've created a safe space, not just when I've come to, you've come to a gathering or a retreat, but actually how I show up now in my everyday life is so important to me, especially with women, especially when it comes to deepening those relationships. Things are gonna happen. Things are gonna show up. Things are gonna get a bit icky sometimes. The important part is, what do you do about it? So this week, I'm really inviting you to reflect on this. We're coming up to this powerful pink full moon on Sunday. You're very welcome to join me on a Zoom at 10 a.m. on Sunday morning. But is there a repair that wants to happen in your life? Is there a conversation that you're avoiding with someone else or even with yourself? And what would it feel like to truly say, I'm sorry, from your heart? Not to fix or be forgiven, but to return back to connection. This isn't about being the one who always makes peace. It's about being the one who chooses presence over pride. Because true sisterhood isn't about never hurting each other. It's about staying in it together when it matters the most. So thank you for being here with me today. I don't take your time lightly and for granted. You could be anywhere else, but you've chosen to take this moment with me, and I appreciate you and your time. If this has touched something in you, I'd love to hear from you. Share it, journal it, send it to a sister that you love. And if you haven't already joined our weekly mailing list, Whispers from the Hearth, where I share the blog, the podcast, and a few soul prompts to carry you through the week. And of course, if you're really feeling the pull, we still have some spaces left for our founding members in our Sacred Sister Sanctuary. It opens on the 1st of May, but you can get your founding member spot right now. This is going to be such a magical space, a space for women who really want to walk this path, not just talk about it. You are welcome here. You are whole, and I'm really grateful to be walking alongside you. Until next time, love and blessings.